Good morning.
Welcome.
So today is the first Sunday in May of this year, 2021, May 2nd. And our conversation this morning is, who do you think you are?
Good question.
Who do you think you are? And I'm going to begin by reading an affirmative prayer by Ernest Holmes, our founder for Centers for Spiritual Living. And it says this: I realize that I am formed in the spiritual image and likeness of God, and that it is the desire of God to be manifested and expressed through me always. I know too that my spiritual body is now perfect, capable of perfect expression at all times, perfect expression of love, peace, poise, confidence, assurance, and power. Now that I realize my true nature, every negative thought has left me. I have no fear, no dread, no feeling of inferiority, no feeling of intention. Every cell, tissue, organ, and function in my body is completely in harmony. Only good can be manifested through me. I love everyone and know that everyone loves me and is interested in me and in the work I am doing. I go about my work with ease and relaxation. I work quietly without strain. My nerves are strong, quick, steady, with abundant reserve power for any emergency. All the power of God is surging about me and through me in perfect peace and harmony. Perfect assurance is mine, and so it is.
That's beautiful. When I think about the what Ernest Holmes said, which is that the universe is in favor of us, the universe wants for us to succeed, that God, angels, spirit, source, whatever you want to call it, favors us and wants for us to succeed. That's that's the fundamental thing that we teach. It's the fundamental thing that we believe. But then I look at that and I look at it in relationship to what we actually often see ourselves doing during the course of any given day. And one of the things that I've discovered more recently, and although I've known it all along, is that an awful lot of our interactions are fear-based. And I say fear-based in a subtle way that we don't necessarily notice. And what I mean by that is we're often operating out of a lack of feeling safe. And I want to pay particular attention to that today and ask you to ask yourself that question during the course of your day. Do I feel safe and am I safe? Because there's two levels of that. There's one, I don't feel safe because in fact I'm not safe. Something's going on around me I need to pay attention to. Or the other is I don't feel safe because it's like anxiety in the background. It's sort of like noise. It's there all the time. And that's really what I want to speak to today is there's this background noise I call the lack of feeling safe, which has nothing to do with what's actually going on in your life. It has to do with different things having gotten triggered in your experience, but also even in your vocabulary and even in very simple things. And I'm going to ask you to pay attention to your own thinking and whether this has happened to you. Uh, I gotta do this today. I've got to do that today. If I don't get that done, what's going to happen? I don't know, but we got a deadline. And so often day to day living is I got to do this, I got to do that. Oh my God, what if? And there's this fear in the background that never really quite surfaces that erodes the sense of the universe being in favor of you, the universe actually liking, wanting, and loving you. It's quite the contrary. And so if you notice yourself being driven, and underneath it, there's a sense of anxiety, which is really the feeling of not being connected to source because there's something wrong, there's something dangerous going on around you, then it's really, really important for you to pay attention to that and ask yourself, do I feel safe? If I feel safe, why aren't I acting that way? If I am safe, why don't I behave that way? And so in some cases it would be slowing down a little bit and noticing the thinking that you're doing, the condition of your mind and body. But so often, and I notice this with Judith because she's a really, really industrious hard worker, she gets into what we call work mode. And when you're in work mode, the pressure's on. And what I see is the pressure being on doesn't make things better. It just means the pressure's on. And so what I'm inviting all of us to do this week is to take the pressure off and ask yourself, if this didn't have to get done, if I was enough, if I were sufficient, if God really were in favor of me and the universe really did love me, how would I behave? And why aren't I behaving that way now?
Right. I think what I do, and I discovered a long time ago that I get more done if I have an action list, to-do list. So now even in semi-retirement here, I have an action list of things I want to get done this day. And if the end of the day is here and I haven't gotten them done, I feel like I haven't I don't know, met my own personal standard. I don't know, but it really is a made up deadline, and these deadlines can be hard on us. But I would, if you might want to address that, but I would like to shift this to also to social anxiety,
I don't have any of that.
because we're starting to get go out and
Starting
be,
to talk to people again.
we're starting to connect with other
Yeah.
people socially again, and it for many people it brings up some past history with social anxiety. Social anxiety is when you're in a group of people and you're just not sure you belong, and you're not sure you fit in, you're not sure people like you, you're not sure how to behave, and this also usually comes from your past history, but it's a huge waste of energy, and it brings up feelings of what I am is not enough,
Yeah.
or not, I'm not made of the right stuff, or any of
I'm
that.
too thin.
Yes.
That's almost always our
What will they
fear.
think? I'm
What will
just
they
too
think? I'm so
thin.
thin. That's right. Definitely much too tall. I need to buy a wig.
So do you want to address that anymore?
Well, but I think it's the same unspoken
Not feeling safe,
feeling
certainly.
safe. And an unspoken message in that. And some of us may have grown up in families like I did, where everything wasn't perfect. And there was an unspoken, if you get it wrong or you make a mistake, you will be banished for life, not just for a little while, but for life. And so we go to events and we go to parties and we meet people, and sometimes without even knowing it, the unspoken underlying thing is, don't make a mistake, get it right. You say the wrong thing and you could be in trouble. And so
Banished.
banished forever, which isn't going to happen. Most of our worst fears are huge exaggerations of things that are never going to happen. And what I'm suggesting today is we give a little more attention to that so that we don't have to have it run us. We then can choose. I choose to go. I choose to allow myself to have fun. I choose to involve and engage, as opposed to, I can't, I'm probably not qualified. I don't really belong. I remember Woody Allen having said, and it wasn't his original line, I would never want to belong to a club that would have a member like me. I think it's something close to that.
I think Groucho Marx said it
Groucho
first.
Marx said it, yes. What was he, do you remember the exact words?
uh, I I wouldn't want to belong to a club that would have me
As a
from
member?
for a member.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, what an incredible, think about that. And we all laughed like, yeah, we know what that feels like. Think about what that means in your daily life when you say that in more than one arena. And in fact, if you say that about yourself when you get up in the morning, I wouldn't want to have me as a person that I had to spend time with. I wouldn't want to have me as a person, a member of my own club. Wow. So no wonder when we talk about treatment, that is seeing the highest and the best and knowing an outcome that is positive, we have our doubts as to whether that applies to us.
Yeah. And Bob made a good point before, is we often exclude ourselves and then blame others for not including us.
Hmm.
In other words, if we don't reach out and start a conversation with someone, or talk, and then we can blame them for not talking to us. But so we encourage ourselves and you to take the first step. People are not going to bite you.
I remember when I was working at the hospital and I saw a man sitting, and he looked very angry and he looked very uncomfortable. And I could tell he was angry, so I didn't want to say anything. And I could tell that he was uncomfortable, and I didn't want to bother him, so I didn't say anything for the longest time. And then finally, I said, "So you're having a good day, or is this a tough day for you?" And he looked at me, and I thought, "Oh God, I shouldn't have said that." He said, I was looking at you earlier and I thought you were mad at me, so I didn't want to say anything.
Where was this?
The hospital.
Oh
And I said, no, I
gosh.
looked at you and you looked so serious. She said, well, I looked at you and you looked very serious, so I didn't want to talk to you. So here we are, two of us not talking to each other, each thinking the other one doesn't like us for no good reason. We were total strangers. I mean, it's absurd. And you
It's
know what?
absurd.
It happens all the time. We make up stuff about ourselves
Yeah.
not fitting. We make up stuff about other people not fitting. And then we get all upset that people just don't seem to fit, but we make that stuff up.
Yeah. So, what I would like to talk about with this "Who Do You Think You Are" title is this idea. It goes back to the first line of the prayer that I just read from Ernest Holmes, where he said, I realize that I am formed in the spiritual image and likeness of God, and that it is the desire of God to be manifested and expressed through me always. So, what I know and believe is that we are the divine, not just a little tiny part of us, but every cell of our being is also divine, and that we're here pretending to be this little ego encapsulated human being with no powers at all, no powers of manifestation, no powers of uh, assisting in our health and well-being. And that's simply not true. It's an I guess it's part of the requirement of being human. You have to have a very strong ego that wants you to think this is all you are, the human
Mhm.
being who is born, has the struggle of a life, and dies, and you just have to do your best in that struggle. But the truth is that you're far more than that. You are a multidimensional being that has a lot going on at all times that you can't see, and you have all the power in the universe available to you that you're sitting there not using 99% of the time.
The ego is really a survival strategist, and it believes that if anything goes wrong, its survival will be threatened. It's doing its best possible job, making sure that in fact you're always first, number one, get fed, get what you need, make sure that everything works the way you want it to work, because it believes, much like I was talking about safety, that the world is an unsafe place that has to be fought for. What you're talking about is that that's not true.
No, it's not true. And the master teacher, Jesus, came to awaken us to that fact. He did miracles, and then he looked at his disciples and he said, greater things than these shall ye do. And he's talking to all of us. He came to be the great example, not the great exception. He was the great exception, but that wasn't his purpose in being here. He's simply more evolved in knowing his oneness with the divine, with the Father, with Source. And he was here because it was time for us to awaken and step up and use this power that is in all of us. And so I know I have to remind myself all the time that what would Jesus do? You know, that I can do also, that I can practice also. And so I'm here to remind us all, shake us up,
Mhm.
that we are not just powerless human beings, but through our thoughts, through our feelings, we create our experience. And if we don't like what we're experiencing, then we need to take responsibility, maybe even search back and say, well, what have I been thinking? What have I been feeling? Okay, I choose to go in a different direction now. And I will start with affirmations and knowing and reminding myself that the God that was in Jesus is in me too. And Jesus and God want me to use it, want me to remember the truth of who I really am.
That is so extraordinarily powerful. And if just before we do any prayer or treatment, we would say to ourselves what was said, which is that I do all of this, that you could do this and more. that you could do even greater things. That means me, yes. Then who would be given an assignment like that except somebody who is grand and amazing and wonderful? He didn't say, you're not much, but try hard. He didn't say, if you meet the deadlines, you're going to be okay. He didn't say, if you lost 10 pounds, I mean, you'd qualify. He said, just exactly as you are, who you are is enough. You can do all that I do and more. And I love when you say that, and I've heard it 1,000 times. He was a great example, not the great exception. How often do we treat ourselves as if we're an exception to inclusion? We're an exception to love. We're an exception to kindness and to being approved of and accepted. And then wonder, worry, and fear that what's happening to us is that we're not accepted, not loved, and not cared about. We haven't earned it yet.
Right. So uh, you've heard the concept to go from fear to faith.
Mm-hmm.
And that is shifting yourself. Anxiety, social anxiety, any kind of anxiety is of a low grade fear. There are only two basic emotions, love or fear. And so if you're not feeling love and loving and loved, you're in fear of,
Mm-hmm.
of some degree. And so it's a matter of shifting. Going from fear to faith is going from fear to love, and knowing that you are loved, and knowing that really, despite appearances, all is well in the universe, because this is a wonderful uh, training ground, an experience ground for us to wake up to our spiritual magnificence and use it for others and ourselves. That's what our whole teaching is about, to use it. There is a power in the universe that is greater than you are, and
And you can
you
use it.
can use it.
Think about what that means. You can use it. And are you using it? Are you living up to your spiritual potential, or are you living up to your worst fear? And if you're living up to your spiritual potential, that means that you're constantly exercising, expanding, and expressing and allowing, and not allowing the things that have happened to you and your assessments of them to limit you or make you small. I have friends who've recently run into some conflicts where they've been rejected or put down or made wrong and made to feel small. And that actually is sad because they didn't get smaller or become less valuable or less important as a result of those interactions. They took it upon themselves to agree with the assessment that they weren't worth much. And so we have to be willing to reassess our assessment of ourselves and say, I am largely an undiscovered miracle expressing. I'm an undiscovered source of love and good and joy and possibility expressing. And I'm about to discover more of that. And I'm not willing to agree to the lesser or the smaller that people would suggest that I am.
Wonderful. So I invite us all to quit pretending that we are less than the magnificence of the divine, to quit pretending that we're not who we really are. That's the truth of our being, and that's what we're here for. That's what we're bringing into the world as awareness and knowledge, and that's what will make our world a better place.
It was funny. A while back, I was invited to do a speaking engagement, and nobody knew who I was. Nobody knew me, and so I was milling around before the speaking engagement, talking to people, and they were talking about the person who was going to be the speaker, and which was me. And and what I noticed about how I felt so serious and complete and adequate, and I was going to be the one that was going to be talking. And so then I left that night when I got up and spoke and got the applause and everything worked. But I thought, how many times have I been to a party where I wasn't going to be speaking? And how many times have I been to a party that I wasn't going to be speaking, that I thought I had no voice and that I chose to have no voice? What if whenever you went out to speak with people, you were the speaker, you were the visionary, you were the one who was an expression of the divine? Wouldn't that
Mhm.
be something?
Yeah. I'm going to close with two quotes from Ernest Holmes. One says, "Life is not just something to be endured, it is to be lived in joy and in a fullness without limit." life will become one grand song when we realize that since God is for us, as you said, none can be against us. We shall cease merely to exist and we shall live. And so it is.
Extraordinary.
And so now I'm going to go first of all to our offertory page, and we'll say that affirmation together. We'll invite you to support this ministry, this teaching healing ministry. And there we go.
Beautifully done.
So if you'll read with me this affirmation, it says, my investment today is made with the full realization that God is the source of my supply and returns it to me enriched and multiplied. And so it is. So this is a photo, a screenshot of our website, cslpalmbeaches.org. Right here is the address. And right under it says ways to donate. That takes you to this page where we have our mailing address and how you can donate with a credit card or use Easy Tithe, which is a very easy way to give also. So we thank you for your donations. You've done a wonderful job of keeping this ministry going this last year in this pandemic, and we are so grateful. So
And now we're going to turn off the recording and we're going to turn on the music.
oh, yes, the recording. Thank you. Okay.
That's
So,
okay. The public can know that we accept donations.
so I have to get back to the, let me close this out.
Here we go. We're going to
Thank
go
you
to
for
record.
remembering that.